It was autumn. In the hush of the forest, a lone yellow leaf clung to the branch of a great oak tree. "I'm not ready yet," thought the little yellow leaf, as a whole riot of fiery leaves chased and swirled around the tree. I think they're all letting go of the branches, yeah? "Not yet," thought the little yellow leaf. As the afternoon sun beckoned and teased, "Not ready," thought the little yellow leaf. As apples grew musky, pumpkins grew heavy, and flocks of geese took wing, "Still not," the little yellow leaf thought, as the other ones gathered into great heaps, crackly, dry, where children played. A chill filled the air, and the sun sank slow. "Not ready," thought the little yellow leaf, as a heavy harvest moon bloomed amber in the starry sky. "Not yet. Not yet. Not yet." Through the long night, snow flurried, and the little yellow leaf held fast to the great oak tree. Days passed, and still the little yellow leaf held tight, alone. The leaf searched the bare branches, covered only with a shimmer of snow, alone. And then, high up on an icy branch, a scarlet red flash. One more leaf holding tight. They're a long way apart there. The whole other side of the tree. "You're here," called the little yellow leaf. "I am," said the little red leaf. "Like me?" said the little yellow leaf. Neither spoke, and finally, "Will you?" asked the little red leaf. "I will," said the little yellow leaf. And 1, 2, 3, they let go, and they soared. Into the waiting wind they danced, off and away, and away, and away, together. That's the end. Oh, this book is really great because sometimes I feel like that little yellow leaf. Like there's something I need to do, but I'm a bit scared. I'm a bit scared to do the thing that maybe I need to do. For the leaf, it was letting go of the branch, right? Just had to let go of the branch and float into the air. It was time to let go of that branch. For me, when I'm scared, it really helps to have someone who says, "Do you want to do it together?" And that little yellow leaf found the little red leaf, and they were able to do it together. They let go together, and they sailed through the air together. So when we are scared to do something new, and that's scary to do something new, sometimes it helps to be brave and to have someone to do it with. And that's the great thing that we learn all through our life, not just when we're kids, but when we're grown-ups too. Doing something new takes a friend or two to do it with, and then it's much easier to be brave.
From Journal of Neil Gaiman. I hope that in this new year to come, you make mistakes. Because if you are making mistakes, then you are making new things, trying new things, learning, living, pushing yourself, changing your world. You are doing things you've never done before. And more importantly, you are doing something. So that's my wish for you and all of us. And my wish for myself. Make new mistakes. Make glorious, amazing mistakes. Make mistakes nobody's ever done. Don't freeze. Don't stop. Don't worry that it isn't good enough or it isn't perfect. Whatever it is, art or love or work or family or life, whatever it is you are scared of doing, do it. Make your mistakes next year and forever. This is the reading of a contemporary American author. Abraham had faith and obeyed God. He was told to go to the land that God had said would be his, and he left for a country he had never seen. Because Abraham had faith, he lived as a stranger in the promised land. He lived there in a tent, and so did Isaac and Jacob, who were later given the same promise. Abraham did this because he was waiting for the eternal city that God had planned and built. Even when Sarah was too old to have children, she had faith that God would do what he had promised, and she had a son. Her husband Abraham was almost dead, but he became the ancestor of many people. In fact, there are as many of them as there are stars in the sky or grains of sand along the beach. This is an excerpt from the writings of an unknown author in the emerging Jewish Christian community of the first century.
I've been thinking this week about how much our technology has evolved to reduce our risks in life, or to alert us to a risk that we can take some steps to avert. I watched the dashboard on my car to warn me about the risk of a mechanical problem, or even the risk that driving a Prius, I've forgotten to put fuel in the car. Or we have those flashing symbols and annoying buzzers to warn us to wear our seatbelts. And some of our vehicles have alarms to tell us when we've crossed the center line, or flashers on our side mirror to tell us it's unsafe to pass because there's a vehicle beside us. We love safety devices. And my reliance on technology has made it harder and harder for me to risk getting lost or making a wrong turn. Whereas I used to ask someone for directions, now I rely on MapQuest to tell me how to get there. Or I used to plan a route in my head based on an address. I now enter the address in an app on my phone to make sure I'm saving time by getting there the absolute shortest possible route. And when I'm the last person out of this building, I set the security alarm to reduce the risk of theft or damage from an unlawful entry into the building. When we take a flight, we'll submit to having our lunch and our luggage x-rayed, our bodies searched or scanned in the hope that whoever might pose a risk to our safety, that person will be detected and our flying will be somewhat safer. And a whole industry's grown up around insuring us against the risk of accident, the risk of injury, the risk of damage and loss to our property or our person. Over my lifetime, a profession has emerged as risk management, to identify and assess and monitor and even limit risk for various industries and businesses. Risk is a big deal in our lives. Think about the resources that we invest or expend to reduce it or to manage it. But it seems impossible to me to imagine eliminating risk from life. In its absolute essence, life emerges out of risk. Life exists in great risk. And life evolves only by taking extraordinary risks. We risk opening our eyes every single morning. Who knows what we will live to see or not see? We risk loving each other. And who knows where the path of loving will take us? We risk trusting what we perceive, what we learn, who we love, the air we breathe, the water we drink, the chair we sit on, the universe itself. And who knows how life will unfold? Where there will be safety and where there'll be danger. Where there'll be joy and where there'll be hurt. And this is the great invitation of life. To accept its risk and to trust its unfolding. And taking risk is not about tempting fate or putting oneself in harm's way for no life-serving purpose. But accepting risk is as essential to life as oxygen. And it's fundamental to being a spiritual person in a human experience. We have so many teachers in history and mythology who help us to say yes to life, which is to say, we risk. To find within us the faith to be alive. Not faith as in believing in 100 impossible things before breakfast. And not faith as in abdicating responsibility for ourselves and our world to some all-powerful deity. But the faith to embrace the risky and vulnerable nature of life and to trust in its essential goodness. Despite all our inventions and all our achievements to so-called manage risk, life itself has a way of making sure we stay in touch with our vulnerability and our insecurity. It's rare that our lives unfold without a wrinkle. A business fails. A relationship ends. Someone we trust betrays us. A pink slip has our name on it. Someone we love dies. Someone we trust betrays us. Somewhere along the way, we experience a bankruptcy of our body or our spirit or of our bank account. An addiction, a foreclosure, a health crisis, a career challenge, a toxic environment, a less than ideal business venture. Something that turns our path away from its inclination to find the shortest and easiest route from A to B. By whatever circumstance we have found ourselves disoriented in life and all too acquainted with vulnerability and insecurity, with risk. One of the reasons Abraham and Sarah are such big stars in the biblical drama is that they are among those exceptional characters who were never too old to take a risk. There's something pretty compelling about a pair of geriatrics willing to say yes. Yes, when adventure knocks on the door. Yes to leaving their settled and comfortable life, even when it promised them to become something they'd always wanted to be: parents, landowners, and to embrace an unknowable road to get there. And if you read their story carefully, if we had kept going this morning in their story, we discover that they spent the rest of their lives being lost and being found. Twice they end up in Egypt with Abraham passing off as his sister, the very woman that he has celebrated his silver, diamond, gold, and platinum anniversaries with. And the storytellers of Genesis, they devote 12 chapters to their wanderings from as far east as the Euphrates River in what's now Iraq to the kingdom of Egypt in the south. And their story is essentially their willingness to traipse all over the ancient Near East, never, ever, ever again having a place to call home, trading in their settled life for a pilgrimage, wandering from pillar to post, no fixed address. It's like they kept coming to one of those places along the way that said, "You are here." You know, like those trail maps that you find nailed to a post in the woods. And there's always a screw in the map that says, "You are here." But how does it help to know you are here when you don't know where here is? And you're generally looking at the map because you're trying to get someplace other than here. What we really want to know is how to get there from here, wherever here is. Isn't that how we live our lives? I'm willing to bet that when all was said and done, these archetypal characters wouldn't have traded in the twists and turns, the mistakes and the misadventures, their discoveries and their transformations for anything on earth, not even to have the keys back to their little house in Haran. And their acceptance of risk shaped a spirituality rooted in a kind of restless pilgrimage. Can't you just imagine them telling their friends, "You know, a funny thing happened to us on the way to the cemetery. We took a chance. We did something we never imagined ourselves doing. And one amazing thing after another happened, and somewhere in the midst of it all, we found ourselves on this risky, vulnerable, sacred path that we started calling home." The detours and deviations, the seemingly wrong turn or the twist of faith, the experience of risking a new way can be a holy happening in our lives. Being lost has a way of sharpening our senses, making us more aware of our surroundings, more vulnerable to each other, less self-reliant and more open to needing each other, less automated and more present, less inclined to take things for granted, and more grateful, less nonchalant and more attuned. And maybe taking a risk isn't just something we're destined to luck into every now and again. But maybe it's actually a spiritual practice we would do well to cultivate in our lives. To take a route we haven't taken before. To do something we've never done. To let ourselves risk being lost. To be a stranger in a strange land. To let ourselves be unsettled, unsure, insecure. To get lost between jobs. To get lost looking for love. To get lost looking for the sacred. To lose ourselves in whatever wilderness is waiting for us to notice that there are many ways, and the holy ground is to be found under every step we take. That passage that Kenyo just read for us from Hebrews. Hebrews 11 is kind of like that sidewalk in Hollywood. It has all the names of the shining stars in the stories that shape our faith. Abraham and Sarah got a star in that sidewalk, not because they were especially chosen by some tribal god who acted like a real estate agent and gave them a piece of land in the ancient Near East that belonged to another people. Abraham and Sarah got a star in that sidewalk because they set out not knowing where they were going. Everyone over a certain age has gotten up from a chair to do something and forgotten where they were going. But when was the last time that we set out intentionally, without a plan, without an agenda, without a list, without a map, without an umbrella, without a cell phone, when two roads diverged in the woods and we took the one that we'd never been on before? Let's just ask those who are fleeing their homelands and risking everything for a better life. Let's ask them to teach us about risk. We might be sponsors, but they're the stars, the pilgrims, with so much to teach us about assuming the risk it takes to live, to be alive. This is a time for us to pause and consider in what literal or metaphorical way life might be inviting us to assume the risk. The risk to make a new mistake, not the same old one we've made 100 times. Not the ones the previous generation made. Those mistakes have already done their work. They've already accomplished something. But to try something new, to do something before we're ready, to risk imperfection, to act before we've done all the research or before all the evidence is in, to resist paralysis and embrace the risk of being truly alive. It could be a spiritual practice that will change the rest of our lives. In the white wonder of this season, we feel the tug of mystery on our hearts. The invitation to open to possibility, to open to growth and change, to comfort and joy in this winter journey. We seek to open to the gift of the coming again of light with each new day. the light in the eyes of the very young, and the sparkle in the eyes of those graced with age and experience. The light of wonder that lives in our questing spirits. The shadow in the glaze of weariness that causes us to pause. The light of truth, the ahas that we have seen and heard. We seek that we might open to share the gifts of life and light in our sweat for justice, to pay the cost of attention, to initiate the exchange of forgiveness, to risk new beginnings free of old grievances, to engage with each other in the potluck of joy, and find the gifts of a larger love. We seek in these winter days that we might open to the miracles of the ordinary, to the breath-giving, heart-pounding wonder of being born to each new day. In our gathered time, we remember those who journey a fearful path with the mystery of disease, those facing the nearness of death, those grieving the loss of health or mobility or freedom or home or speech or energy, those living captive to fear, to the power of another, a regime, an occupier, a war. We stand with those living on the margins of society, in hunger, in poverty. That we may act without knowing the answer, the best way. That we may act in hope and kindness to kindle a flame of possibility. That we might bring love and peace in our solidarity. That we might be a face of comfort as we seek to live in ways that bring more equity and fairness to a world with more dividing lines than any of our maps. With deepening intention, we bring our prayers with each other this day, that we might be about living in ways that answer them. May it be so. Amen. We go with one another in the light of this time together, in the light of the stories that shape our faith, in the light of our tradition, in the light of all that inspires us. We go to the risky business of being alive. We go to live in the light that draws us, the light we find in one another. We go to be that shining spark of divinity in a world that desperately needs hope and possibility. We go together.